Hello from L Bone, and welcome to another F1 video from ya boy. In case you missed it, my name is currently L Bone and not J Bone until I stop taking so many L's and am back at or above 50% on the season with my bona fide F1 race predictions. Hashtag pray for L Bone. Let me see that hashtag in the comments after you like this video to support me because I need all the support I can get right now. Anyways, we are currently deep in the midst of another F1 drought. There has not been a race in almost 3 weeks, and there won't be a race for another week. What is this, the F1 off season? This is the F1 season with the most races ever at a whopping 24 Grand Prix weekends, but because they had to add in more mid-season breaks in order to make 24 races in one season possible for drivers and teams without them getting burnt out, we fans keep getting these long periods of F1 nothingness, and somehow it's making the season feel shorter. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think it's kind of annoying and makes the season feel too spread out and not like one cohesive season. Enough of me ranting for now, though. It's time for you to rant. You being the Formula Bone subscribers who saw my messages on social media asking for them to call in with their hottest F1 takes, most burning F1 questions, wildest F1 theories, or just whatever F1 thought was on their mind so that I could respond to it. I figure platforming you while F1 is currently voluntarily deplatformed is the least I could do for the world's F1 fans. I'm also hoping this gives me good karma that will make my name not be L-Bone as soon as possible. Let's kick things off with those F1 fans who called in with their hottest F1 takes.
Franco Colapinto is going to be a world champion.
While I don't share the same steadfast conviction as this caller, I do think it is 100% possible that Williams replacement driver Franco Colapinto could be a future world champion based on what we've seen from him through his first 3 Grand Prix. After popping in mid-season Red Bull style to replace American hero Logan Sargent, Colapinto has not yet had a bad outing and has already finished as high as P8 despite having minimal experience in an F1 car. Granted, that P8 was gifted to him by Checo, Sainz, and Hülkenberg, but still. A few highlights from him thus far have been him making Q3 in Baku, his insane Turn 1 overtake in Singapore that saw him gain a number of positions, and him defending against Checo for a number of laps in Singapore and earning some praise from Checo in the process, whatever that's worth these days. We now know how low Colapinto's floor is, but we have no clue how high his ceiling is, which is why I really hope that he gets a drive with Sauber for next season.
I'm Hunter. I'm calling from Las Vegas, and I think that Max Verstappen is going to retire before the 2026 regulations.
Another day, another Max Verstappen retirement take. I disagree with this one personally. While I have no doubt Max Verstappen will retire from F1 long before he sniffs the all-time World Drivers' Championship record, as he clearly has aspirations to try out other motorsport series, I think that he knows it would be foolish of him to retire right before a new regulations era. All it takes at the start of a new regulations era is the team you're currently on being the one that gets the new regulations right, which all but gift wraps you potentially multiple world championships. So I see no reason why Max would retire before at least seeing how things play out in 2026. Now, if you had said Max Verstappen will be an Aston Martin driver in 2026, that I could get behind in a big way. I think it very well might happen.
Lando Norris has yet to prove that he deserves the championship. He has proven that he can win a race by chance, like in Miami. He has proven that he can win a race by pure dominance, like in Zandvoort and in Singapore. But he has yet to prove that he can win a race in which the odds are against him. By pure racecraft, like the champions did, like the previous champions before him did, like Max did in Hungary 2022, like Fernando did in Spain 2013, like Kimi Raikkonen did in Suzuka 2005. He doesn't have that type of performance. So in my opinion, that and his annoying comments, like the "you had a fast car 7 years ago" to Lewis, proves that he doesn't have the mentality and the racecraft and the skills, which is something that I can say that Oscar has. He has proven that in both Italy and in Azerbaijan, even if he didn't win in Italy, that he can, do crazy stuff and overtake for the lead in situations in which it's not by pure dominance, and he has that laser focused mentality. So in my opinion, Lando will probably not win this year, and I don't think he will win, the following years.
This is a very interesting take because I do agree that we've seen more from Oscar Piastri than from Lando Norris when it comes to winning races via racecraft. Lando has not yet had a win that required him to execute a daring, high-pressure racecrafty overtake, while Oscar had that in Baku and would have also had that in Monza had Leclerc's long strategy not panned out. Counterpoint though, Lando has shown us more when it comes to pure dominance of a race. Just look at his wins in the Netherlands and Singapore, where he ran away with 20-second plus gaps to P2. All in all, I do think Oscar does have the ability to dominate a race, and we haven't yet seen Lando successfully win a race via racecraft. In actuality, we saw him lose a race in Austria via racecraft when Lando's impatience went up against Max Verstappen being overly aggressive, and it led to them coming together. To this caller's point, I would not be surprised to see Oscar Piastri win a World Drivers' Championship before Lando Norris, just because of how Oscar has shown us that he can make the big move, and Lando has not yet.
J-Bone, this is Joel from Michigan. The McLaren looks zippy.
I don't really think this qualifies as a hot take, as I think everyone on Earth would agree, but thank you for calling regardless, Joel. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I do not bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is, until I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondered what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I get why everyone is talking about it. And with their GMO technology, ZBiotics is continuing to invent probiotics that will help with everyday challenges of modern living. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/formulabone. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/formulabone and use the code formulabone at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Next up, let's hear from those F1 fans who called in with some bona fide predictions of their own. Hopefully, they're better than L-Bone's bona fide predictions that have changed my name.
J-Bone. This is Scott from the P1 Castle, and my Formula One hot take is that the championship for the drivers is going to go down to the last race between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton is going to play a pivotal role passing Max Verstappen and moving Lando Norris ahead of Max enough to win him the championship, and Lewis Hamilton will be the one to give him the assist. J-Bone!
Scott from the P1 Castle calling in with a Castle call. Give him a follow on Instagram at P1 Castle if you're a fan of F1 trading cards. Scott is the F1 card king. I really hope this happens, Scott. I was not following F1 back in 2008 for the infamous "Is that Glock?" moment that many believe is the greatest F1 championship deciding moment ever. Some sickos think it's Abu Dhabi 2021, but that's neither here nor there. And I would love to have an "Is that Max?" moment where Lewis passes Max at the end of the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and it hands the championship to Lando. It would be poetic because of both 2008 and 2021 for Lewis to be the one to shift the championship at the last second.
Hey J-Bone, this is Alex from Hawaii, and I think next season Charles is going to start off hot, replicating his 22 season, but instead of Max coming back, it's going to be a three-way battle between Lewis, Max, and Lando for the championship, with Charles ultimately going to be dropping down to fourth.
I do think we'll have at least a three-way fight for the championship next season, as I predict 2025 could be one of the closest and most hard-fought F1 seasons of all time. However, I would be shocked if Hamilton finished the season ahead of Leclerc. Leclerc not only knows the Ferrari team and car intricately, but he also has shown time and time again that he can maximize the Ferrari car even when Ferrari and mess things up for him. Lewis, on the other hand, will have to learn both the Ferrari team and car throughout next season, which is why I think if he beats Leclerc, it will start in 2026 when they're both on essentially even footing with a new car and Lewis having more Ferrari experience under his belt. Additionally, I think Oscar Piastri will finish higher than both Ferrari drivers and maybe even win the World Drivers' Championship, just saying. Next up, we'll hear from some folks who wanted to hear what I have to say when it comes to some F1 rankings.
Hey, J-Bone. This is Dan from Austin. First time, long time. My question is, how would you rank the current grid? I guess 21 drivers, including Danny Rick, because I love him. If everyone had an equally fast car right now, let's say everyone's driving that, 2020 Mercedes W11. How would everything slot out? Thanks.
Here's my ranking of every F1 driver to compete in a race in 2024 if they were in equal machinery with zero reasoning nor explanation. P22, Logan Sargent. P21, and Lance Stroll. P20, Kevin Magnussen. P19, Zhou Guanyu. P18, Valtteri Bottas. P17, Daniel Ricciardo. P16, Checo Perez. P15, Esteban Ocon. P14, Pierre Gasly. P13, Franco Colapinto. P12, Yuki Tsunoda. P11, Oliver Behrman. P10, Fernando Alonso. P9, Alex Albon. P8, Nico Hulkenberg. P7, George Russell. P6, Carlos Sainz. P5, Lewis Hamilton. P4, Charles Leclerc. P3, Oscar Piastri. P2, Lando Norris. And P1, Max Verstappen.
What's up, Big Dog J-Bone? Hey, quick question here. Pick and choose from the existing 2024 F1 grid to design what you think would be the best and worst possible 2024 F1 teams in terms of drivers, team principal, strategy, pit crew, car, livery, and of course, vibes. J-Bone.
I love this. Okay, here's my best 2024 F1 team. Drivers, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, for obvious reasons. They're the two most consistent drivers in F1 this season, which is why they're leading the championship. Team principal, Frederick Vasseur, because he's building something special at Ferrari right now. There's just like a palpable buzz in the air around his team. For strategy, Red Bull, you can't go wrong with Hannah Schmitz. For pit crew, also Red Bull. You can't go wrong with the lightning fast Red Bull pit crew that's always incredible and is the best again this year. For car, McLaren. Duh, the thing's a freaking rocket ship. Or Zippy, as the previous caller said. For livery, the McLaren Senna Monaco livery. That thing slapped. For vibes, I'm going to go with Haas. They just seem happy as Ayao Komatsu turns them around from back markers to midfielders. And going off all that, here is my worst 2024 F1 team. For drivers, Logan Sargent and Lance Stroll, because duh. For team principal, Christian Horner, because too much baggage. For strategy, I'm going to go with McLaren because Lando could be leading the World Drivers' Championship right now if McLaren had better strategy. For pit crew, I'm going Sauber. I will never forget how they started the season off with just a completely broken tire change program that was giving them like minute-long pit stops. For car, also Sauber because their car is awful. That's why they're in last place with 0 points. For livery, Red Bull because it's boring and the same every single year. And vibes, also Red Bull because there's a reason that all their key figures are leaving. See Christian Horner point above. Next up, it's time to hear from a caller who wants me to talk about Ferrari.
Hey J-Bone, this is Shalene from Connecticut. We talk a lot about McLaren and Red Bull, but it doesn't seem like we bring up Ferrari enough. Even though they had this off weekend, do you think Ferrari will eventually overtake Red Bull in the standings with Checo doing so badly?
I've actually heard from many tifosos that think I do not talk about Ferrari enough, and I do agree that I don't really give them the credit they deserve this season, considering they've won 3 Grand Prix, and to this caller's point, there's a very solid chance that they overtake Red Bull in the World Constructors' Championship given their consistent form and Checo's bad form. If that happens and Max Verstappen finishes first in the Drivers' Championship with Red Bull finishing third in the Constructors, I see no reality in which Red Bull don't drop Checo right when the season ends. What a bad look that would be to have the top driver and be the third best team. That hasn't happened since 1983 when Nelson Piquet won the World Drivers' Championship for third place Brabham, while Ferrari won the Constructors despite their top driver finishing P3 somehow. Let me tell you about my sponsor, Shopify. Shopify is the best all-in-one commerce platform capable of handling your business's complexity no matter how big you grow. Step up to Shopify and harness the best converting checkout and the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands like Ruggable and Allbirds. And that next big brand could be yours. Why spend time trying to build an online store with someone besides Shopify when Shopify stores convert the best? You shouldn't be. Something I love about Shopify is that it integrates with YouTube, which just goes to show how forward-thinking they are when it comes to selling products in the modern digital age. Stop leaving sales on the table, folks. You gotta switch your business to Shopify and discover why millions trust Shopify as their all-in-one commerce platform to build, grow, and run their business. It's truly a great platform. I've used it, I've loved it, you need it. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/fbone, all lowercase. That's 1 month for just $1 at shopify.com/fbone, all lowercase, shopify.com/fbone. Finally today, it's time to hear from a caller who has a PSA for all those of you attending or considering attending the upcoming United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas.
Howdy there, J-Bone. It's me, John, calling in from Kansas City. And I don't really have a theory for you tonight. I have a warning. Now you may say, what are you talking about? And I will tell you a tale. A short view back to the past. At last year's Austin Grand Prix, I met the great J-Bone on the Saturday before the race. We had a little conversation, and I was even in one of his YouTube videos. Great meetup. Talked about it for the rest of the day. That night, I went to a local Texas fast food restaurant called P. Terry's. There, I had a bacon burger. And you may say, why is this relevant to the story? Well, I'm getting there. I go to sleep Saturday night. Very excited for my first Grand Prix on Sunday. Very excited. Been talking about it since I found out about it on Christmas that I was going to be there. I was very, very hyped. I wake up Sunday morning, race day, getting hyped. I got a little grumble in my tummy. Whatever, it's fine. Use the restroom, fresh up. But the grumble hasn't gone away. I'm still not feeling very good, J-Bone. Later I find out that P. Terry himself poisoned my food and ruined my race day. I was bedridden that day. It was a bad day, J-Bone. Bad day to be in Austin, Texas. Bad day to be in my vicinity. So, I wrap it up by warning you. Do not eat at P. Terry's when you go to Austin. It's a trap. J-Bone!
I'm torn here because I remember meeting this caller and he was a great guy, and I feel awful that he couldn't make it to the race after traveling all that way to go to it. But as someone who lived in Austin for 8 years, I also love P. Terry's, which is essentially Austin's homegrown version of In-N-Out Burger, except it's better because the fries don't taste like styrofoam like an In-N-Out. I personally never got food poisoning from P. Terry's after eating there probably 100 times over my 8 years in Austin, but that's also because I tended to avoid the downtown P. Terry's location, the one I assume our caller went to, considering most race attendees stay in downtown Austin, because that location is by far the dirtiest feeling of any P. Terry's franchise I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of them. I don't want to necessarily agree and say don't go to P. Terry's if you're in Austin for the race because it's cheap, good, and local, but just know that you've been warned that it's a possibility that this could happen to you, and it does sound terrible. Special shout out to my top YouTube channel members: Joe Max's number one hater Snow, Brian Linton, Wolfso's Racing, Waffleophagus, Melissa Cruz, and David Hake. Mash that join button just below this video to get your name shouted out right here in future videos. Until next time, folks, Elbone! Elbone!